At the start of this year, I figured that 2024 was going to be a very big year for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. We had the extended gameplay reveal, and I figured that was going to be the start. We get some meaningful gameplay, and then we were going to learn more about the characters, the story, what are we going to be doing in hub worlds, all of the exciting gameplay. That's what I figured. But after the extended gameplay, it was basically crickets. We got almost nothing. There's been the odd dev diary. It doesn't get more boring than those. They're like novels that tell you basically nothing. They must get paid by the word. Then the game got delayed until next year. And we've basically gotten nothing since that news. Again, more dev diaries, more talk, but very little footage about the game. And that's basically been it. The last meaningful update we've actually gotten from anyone involved in Bloodlines 2 has been from the Paradox CEO, where he basically went mask off and admitted, hey, Bloodlines 2, it's going to be nothing like the original. If you're expecting anything remotely similar to the beloved Bloodlines that you've been excited about, that you've been waiting for a follow-up to for so many years, if you're expecting that, you're a fool, you're an idiot. Do not expect that, because the Bloodlines 2 you're getting, it's nothing like it. We made this on the cheap because we wanted to recover our money after the whole fiasco with Hardsuit Labs. Don't go expecting a proper sequel. Don't do that. And he didn't stop there. He followed up by saying, hey, the original Bloodlines that you love so much, it was never even that good anyway. So why would you want a sequel that resembles the original? Like, are you kidding? Like, it's glitchy, it's got all these problems, it was only half finished. It's fine. We don't want it to be like the original Bloodlines. You're just wearing nostalgia goggles. You're deluded. Let's just totally ignore the fact that the vibe of the original was so unique. It had these quirky quest lines, great, memorable characters that were fantastic, especially for the time. Very little like it that you can really compare with, which kind of just showed that Paradox are completely out of touch and had no business ever being involved in making a Bloodlines sequel. But to be honest, after those remarks from the CEO, I considered never talking about Bloodlines again, because like at that point, when the leadership has zero confidence, they're basically admitting this is going to be no good, we're telling you ahead of time so you don't get the pitchforks out. It's like, what's the point? What can I say about the game critically that's going to be more profound than the person who made it, funded it, telling you that it's going to be hopeless, that it isn't going to meet your expectations? If they're admitting it, that's basically it. It's got no chance of being good. But then I thought, you know what? I've been following it all this time, all of these memories. I want to follow it through to the end. My sanity be damned. So I'm going to give you an update on Bloodlines 2, everything that's sort of been happening over the last month or two. There's been a few little updates. Probably the last update for the year, because a snail's pace with their marketing. They barely reveal any details, but I'm going to try and leave out the boring bits. I think that's important, because if we looked at all the marketing, you would fall asleep. So we're going to focus on the really good stuff, and I'm actually going to give you the good news first. The positive news. Can you believe it? There is actually some positive news. And it's this trailer that was released about a week ago, and it's called A Betting Man, the Bloodlines 2 trailer. And honestly, it's probably the best trailer that they've ever released for the game, at least since the Chinese room have been working on it. It only goes for about a minute. It's mostly cinematic with some snippets of gameplay. But it's got a pretty good vibe to it. Like, if they showed off this trailer as the first thing we saw for the game, I'd be optimistic. It's well put together, it's quite decent, even the snippets of gameplay look alright. You can see where you're controlling an enemy's weapon and so on. It's fine. The problem is, we know that this isn't what the game is actually going to be. Like, they can put together, the marketing team can be slightly competent and make this look decent, but we know from what we've heard from the Paradox CEO and extended gameplay that it's just not going to be Bloodlines. Maybe it can be an okay, like, Vampire the Masquerade experience, like a Swan Song or whatever these games are, but we came for Bloodlines. That's what I care about. I think a lot of people share this sentiment where we're not hardcore Vampire the Masquerade fans who know all the details of the lore and we play the tabletop game and whatever. We just want a fantastic follow-up sequel video game to Bloodlines. That's what we came for, and this thing is just falling short. So even though this trailer is decent enough, everything else we've seen and actually know when you get into the detail is this isn't going to be a Bloodlines. It's going to have a huge focus on combat, but not much else. Like, linear storyline, not a lot of choices, more like a walking simulator. Certainly none of those interesting side quests that are some of my favorite parts of the original Bloodlines, the hub worlds and so on. That doesn't seem to be there. They've come out and actually admitted that. So I don't think so. So the trailer's totally fine, but too little too late. You had to actually make a decent game. Then you've got the dev diaries. And again, these would put anyone to sleep. They seem to be paid by the word to write them. They're really, really good at just talking about the game and putting out 1,000 words to describe like all these detailed mechanics about the game and everything that no one's going to read. But when it comes to actually showing footage, that's when it's too hard for them and they just really struggle. Because how many times have we seen this where, oh, it's an in-game GIF of an NPC stumbling back after being fed on. We can describe the mechanics around feeding on NPCs in all of this detail and make it sound so good. But we certainly can't show you a video, like even just a 30-second, 1-minute video, maybe a developer explaining what's going on as they demonstrate the mechanic. We can only put a GIF out that isn't even like genuine footage, like live in-game footage. A friggin' GIF. They've been doing this for ages. And honestly, when I see in-game GIF, it just reminds me of like an amateur Kickstarter project that's put together by two people who barely know what they're doing. They're probably scamming you, and they don't have any actual footage of the game that they're trying to fund. So they show you GIFs. They can't show you any in-game footage. And that's what Bloodlines 2 kind of feels like. I mean, the actual footage they've shown in-game for extended periods, it's like the start of the game. And that's basically it. It was the start of the game, one location that they kept reusing over and over for like 25 minutes. It was just kind of weird. It's very little else. And even though they've delayed the game, it's still meant to be coming out in like 7-8 months. Like, time moves very quickly, and I'm sure they're feeling that as well. They probably thought, phew, we've got many more months. But they seem to have made very little progress because they can't really show us anything. That's what it seems like. So we have this dev diary. Then we've got Fashion Matters. That was their latest dev diary, all of the different costumes and everything that you could wear. Again, describing these outfits in all of this detail, but they can't just show you in-game footage of you wearing an outfit, and what does that actually mean? Do NPCs respond to you differently depending on the clan that you represent, all of that sort of stuff? Like, how does this impact the gameplay? I don't know. But let's look at what fans are actually saying, and going to Reddit, the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines Reddit, you'd assume there's some positivity. That's usually the case on Reddit. They're more optimistic than I am. But the very top comment, as you go through some of these outfits, what this post is talking about, the top comment about fashion in the game is, I thought I was in the Veilguard sub. Same, it has the Veilguard aesthetic. Like, when you're comparing the game with the Veilguard, things are going horribly wrong. Because that's what you want to run as far away from that as you possibly can. Like, there's nothing to like about the Veilguard, and the art style is possibly the first thing that gave everyone red flags from the outset. And the outfits just don't look very good. It's honestly hard for me to judge them, because like, when I'm playing a game, the fashion of my character is like the last thing I'm ever thinking about. I couldn't care less. I'm the sort of person who the default outfit, I never change it. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Even character creation, I'm thinking about the skills, the perks that I would choose. Not that you can do this in Bloodlines 2. They took all of that out. Again, it doesn't resemble the original, where you could make those sorts of cool choices. But like the outfits, the aesthetic, I don't care. But I get that I'm probably in a minority. Some people care about that stuff. But I think when it comes to, like, the development team of Bloodlines 2, Veilguard, many of these games that are just falling short as RPGs, I think this is the problem, that the modern developer, they only care about the aesthetic, and they don't care about, like, anything else. Like, forget about interesting side quests, making meaningful choices with your character that aren't just aesthetic, but actually affect the gameplay. They seem to have a mindset of, oh, everyone who plays these games, they're spending 3 hours in character creator, and they want to pick Fire's hairstyle. I'm using that example. Can you even change the character's hair? Probably not. You're stuck with this lesbian haircut. Let's be real. But it's all about what's she wearing, spandex, jeans, decisions. It all rings a little bit hollow when you know that they've just gutted all of the things that we actually cared about in a Bloodlines game. Again, the quirky quests, having those hub worlds that felt really lively, where every inch of the level matters, and there's something to do, there's something interesting to find, characters to meet. A lot of that just feels like it's gone. A focus on outfit wearing, and then the combat as well, which I really don't have that much confidence in. Like, this is from a studio that has never delivered combat in a game. They make walking simulators. To be fair, some of them are decent. Their latest game, Still Waits the Deep, I think it is. I've heard decent things. I might even play it. But they've never made a game where combat is in it at all, I don't think, let alone the actual focus. It seems to take priority here. It's all about the combat experience, which was never that good in the original Bloodlines to begin with. That's not why we're here. So it all just feels like a bit of a shame. Like, they're trying to say to us, hey, just take Bloodlines 2 on its merits, don't compare it to the original, but we're still going to use the name anyway and market it this way because we know we'll trick enough of you to get better sales than if we just did a brand new Vampire the Masquerade game, which is what they should be doing at this point. They do have the male Fire now. I can't remember if we've seen much of him at all. And honestly, it just looks like a slightly more masculine version of the female Fire. And that's only the case because the female Fire doesn't look feminine at all. So it was a pretty easy transition, it seems like. They both look pretty crappy, but there it is. Given we didn't see him for so long, I was wondering if he even existed and they might just drop it and you could only be female Fire, but they're giving you that choice now, so fantastic, hooray. And in terms of what we can expect for the rest of the year, so there are some more Dev Diaries coming up, and oh, what do we have here? We've got Dev Diary 22, end of November, the music of Seattle, and then in December we have the sounds of Seattle, and then they take a big break and they won't do anything for another month. Now, I will say, I love music in games. I think there's some titles out there, like Skyrim, for instance. I think it dumbs down a lot of things from, say, Morrowind long before. I don't think it's a perfect RPG by any means. I think the best thing about Skyrim is the music. I think it enhances it. It's fantastic. I think it's a real shame that Jeremy Soule isn't coming back for The Elder Scrolls 6, because that probably kills all my hype, given just how far Bethesda have fallen. The music is incredible in Skyrim, so I've got no problem with them talking about music in Bloodlines 2, but it just feels weird. Again, the game's coming out in probably 6 months at the latest, and this is what you're talking about. We're going to get another wall of text about the music. You just know they're not going to give you any of the tunes. We're not going to be able to listen to anything. They're just going to talk about putting together the music. At this point, they're like a broken record with these Dev Diaries, just to use a really bad pun. But the last one I'll mention is someone was hanging around the Bloodlines Discord, which is like the only place on the internet where people are talking positively about the game. Again, even Reddit aren't doing that. They're not buying this. They're not even pretending to get excited about Bloodlines 2. So it's purely the developer Discord, and they've probably banned everyone anyway who's ever given them any criticism. But someone said here, I know I was glad to find a place where I could actually talk about the game instead of just dealing with angry people all the time. I don't think anyone's angry. I think if anyone was angry, it was like 12 months ago. We're in acceptance stage now, where it's like, yeah, it's gonna be shit. It's gonna be hopeless. At best, again, it's going to be just generic Vampire the Masquerade game. It's going to have nothing to do with Bloodlines. Who's actually angry? But a developer responded, one of the writers, I believe, Sarah Longthorn, and she says, absolutely. So she thinks people are angry about it, so just more delusion for the dev team. No one's really angry. From the dev side, it's very hard to stay self-motivated enough to do your best work in a very negative environment. That doesn't mean ignoring or closing your eyes to criticism, just being very mindful and intentional about when and how often, and to what degree you personally engage. I don't think I've ever seen them respond to any criticism. Now, I don't really blame them, because, again, I don't think the Chinese room are all the problem here. I think it's Paradox, who only gave this dev the license to make the game because they promised to do it cheaply and quickly. So it's a big fault of Paradox. But you're acting like, oh, the criticism, it's also hard. You've been ignoring it anyway and just doing your own thing. And seemingly, you're proud of the fact that you're ignoring everything about the original Bloodlines that made it great, and you're just making something completely different that no one actually asked for. So, world's smallest violin. We love Vampire the Masquerade. I believe that maybe you do. But I don't believe the next sentence. We love Bloodlines. I don't think so. I'm not seeing anything in this game that resembles the original Bloodlines. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you loathe Bloodlines, because you know it's the fans of that game that are giving you a hard time, or at the very least, are putting those expectations on you to actually deliver something, a genuine RPG. And you don't want to do that. You seem to just want to do your own thing and ignore that Bloodlines ever existed. You deserve the criticism, because any sales that you get are gonna be for people who were nostalgic about Bloodlines. You don't deserve those sales. And we want to do the best job possible. So it's all a balancing act to keep an eye on sentiment and adjust when and where you're able, while also not getting so into it that you lose hope and stop doing the work that will lead to folks being happy with the end result. I don't even really know what that end of that meant. But when I see that, where it's like, oh, we keep an eye on sentiment and criticism, but we also don't want that to get in the way of us just ignoring all of that and doing our own thing. That's what that kind of reads like. They don't care about fan feedback, especially when it relates to Bloodlines 1. Like, I've seen no evidence of developers working on this game having even made an RPG before, having any genuine interest in the original. I think they just see it as a burden. Like, they just don't want to be held to account on anything related to Bloodlines 1. That's pretty much where they're at. And she ends here, as fellow fans, many of us love being active in the community if we can, so this was definitely a good sign. While they like being involved in their developer Discord echo chamber, they're not going to go anywhere else, because you can't find anywhere else on the internet where people are saying good things. Everyone's lost interest, even your publisher. Now, as I've said, I don't 100% blame the Chinese room for all of these problems with the game. Maybe some of the devs, they're trying to do the best that they can with the hand that they've been dealt. They've gotten their orders from Paradox, from their bosses at the Chinese room, who've said, hey, we just need to make a quick narrative game, almost like a walking sim story structure with some combat, and that's it. We're not going to be making a real RPG, a real Bloodline successor. They're trying to do their best, but they can't really. Maybe there's some of that, but I also feel like they haven't really tried. No real effort has seemingly been made to try and appeal to Bloodlines fans at all, and I'm not even really guessing there, because again, the leadership behind this game, Paradox CEO, again, said himself that the original isn't even that good. And I've seen people say, oh, well, when it came out, again, it was glitchy, and it was buggy, and it was a mess. That's all fine, but there was always a hidden gem there. And that is why patches and a lot of work from fans got it into a place where it is top quality to play even now in 2024. This isn't a Starfield situation, because I see people who were saying, oh, the modders are going to fix that. You can't polish a turd. That game's going to be terrible forever, because the base of the game sucks and there's nothing good about it. That was not the case with the original Bloodlines. It was absolutely a rough gem. It was fantastic. It's aged well even now to play, because it's so quirky, so fun, and it's so unique. Whereas with Bloodlines 2, they seem to have that mindset that the original Bloodlines wasn't even that good, so why even use it as a reference? Why take influence from it? We're just going to do our own thing. The devs hiding in an echo chamber, they're not releasing any new footage, they're hiding the game, which is always a bad sign. We saw it with the Veilguard, and look how that turned out. But that's going to be pretty much it for 2024. Let's see how 2025 goes for this game. It's going to be so much fun. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.